I'm not at home. Good evening, folks. Tonight we've got Mayor Dolan, Councillor Waters, and Councillor Rob Nickel on Zoom, and they will be participating in that format tonight, and we'll move forward. Please be advised that this meeting is being audio-video recorded and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. For more information, please contact the clerk's office. Tonight, because we don't have a full council, there's only 2 members of council are supposed to be on Zoom, so we'll have a procedural bylaw motion that we need to vote on. It'll be moved by...
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor, is that we're going to have Mayor Dolan come on?
Oh, just a moment before.
We're going to have Mayor Dolan come on for just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everyone. I was really excited this evening to attend my very first in-camera regular council meeting since March 11th, 2020. Unfortunately, on my way out the door to Town Hall today, I did some random testing and I tested positive for COVID-19. I'm feeling absolutely fine and I was quite shocked actually, but I want to thank the Deputy Mayor for taking the reins tonight and allowing me to participate virtually.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'd like to say that let's get Lynn Dolan back. We need her here, so hopefully we see her in here soon. Thank you. So first procedural motion, need a seconder, mover and a seconder. Carolyn and Bill. That section 5.3B of the procedural bylaw be waived to permit more than 2 members to participate electronically. All in favor? That's carried. Next, we'll have Councillor Alex Waters do our land acknowledgement, please. I'd like to advise the public that we are having some technical difficulties tonight, so just bear with us. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Can I start now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The town of Innisfil acknowledges that the town of Innisfil is situated on the treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that the land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beaujolais First Island, the Chippewas of Rammer First Nation, and the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. And we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges that the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today, we are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and the culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Next, we'll move into open forum. Open forum provides a 2-minute opportunity for the public to speak on any agenda item appearing on the current agenda. More details regarding open forum may be found under section 36 of the procedural bylaw. And I understand tonight we have 2 speakers, Lyndon Brewer. And when you do speak, please come up to the podium over here. It's on a mic, thank you. And then Megan Vargas will be second.
Thank you. You can all hear me? Basically, it's about the subdivision that's going in right behind my property on 897 Lockhart Road. I have a few concerns. It's a 20-year, the plan of subdivision was 20 years old, and I wish that they would have stuck by the 14 or 15 houses that were supposed to go in there from the beginning. However, that didn't happen. So we're kind of moving on to what we have now, which is 24 houses. A couple of my concerns is on the easterly side of Block 26, which is the roadway going in. They're going to put a retaining wall and privacy fence on that side, and I would request a privacy fence and retaining wall on the easterly side of my property, close that pond in. And also along the back, a privacy fence that's not mentioned in the agenda. And the Block 25, the parkland that's directly behind my place, I'm just requesting that the playground and that type of thing is to the easterly block of that. So it's right behind the pond and not behind houses. And the other issue is everybody wants to be in keeping with what's there. The whole place is bungalows. And there's going to be 2 stories go in there. I understand that, but at least lots 1 through 4 that back onto the properties that are there for the last 22 years. Can we try to make those bungalows? That's just it just makes sense to me. So rather than put 2 stories back in there. I just want to make sure that I touch on everything before I leave you alone. I wanted to, the bungalows I touched on, the playground I touched on, and the retaining walls. And is there any questions that you know where I'm talking as far as my property is concerned? I'm at 897, directly beside where the proposed pond is. So along that side, the elevation between my property and that property, and I've been in the business for 40 years, a retaining wall has to be put in. That's common sense. And a privacy fence put there so I don't have to look at that for the next 20 years or however long I'm around. And then behind my property, it's not mentioned about a privacy fence, and I'm the only property that doesn't get that. So I'd like a privacy fence along there in keeping with the other properties that's already been proposed. And like I say, the playground, just move it over to in behind the pond so that way, whatever noise, I don't want it to turn into a basketball court. And whatever, you know, if anybody needs drugs, they go to the basketball court. I don't want that to turn into behind my place. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next, we'll have Megan Vargas speak.
Hello, good evening. I just had a couple of questions about the transit pilot. So I was curious, what were the other options that were looked at before they came to this suggestion? And the company Steer, I believe it is, that they want to do the sole source agreement with, what are their credentials and why they were picked over anyone else? Thank you for your time.
And just for the public to be aware, this will be dealt with in committee of the whole. We'll have it move, somebody will pull it, and we'll bring discussion at that time. Thank you. Okay. Meetings are being held in the council chambers at the town hall, and members of the public can participate in person or electronically. Members of the public wishing to speak regarding an agenda item must pre-register using the request and open forum by Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. If you wish to register after the deadline, please contact Clerk Services. Clerk Services will contact all registrants and with confirmation and details on September 14th, 2022. If you do not wish to participate in the meeting but would like to provide written comment on any agenda item, you may send an email to clerk's office at innisfil.ca, and Clerk Services will circulate your email to council and staff in advance of the meeting. If you require more information, please contact the clerk's office. Next, we'd like to move forward with the approval of the agenda, and I need a mover and a seconder, please. Kenneth and Kevin and Carolyn. All in favor? That's carried. Next, presentations and petitions. If you wish to present or provide a petition, please review the petition information or contact Clerk Services for further details. Delegations by members of the public, delegations by invited guests or members of staff. If you wish to delegate, please complete the delegation form, which will be submitted by Clerk Services for review. Speakers ordered to be determined by the clerk's office at the meeting. If you have any questions, please contact the clerk's office. Any reports from County Council, municipal associations, conservation authority, committees, and emergency operations center updates? Anyone have anything? Alex or Rob? Mayor Dolan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, a couple of things. First of all, at County Council this summer, we passed phase 1 of the Municipal Comprehensive Review. Phase 1 includes the population allocation for each lower tier municipality up to 2051. There was much interest earlier on in both the heritage mapping and the agricultural mapping, and that will be dealt with in phase 2. At the county also is 100 years of the county forest that we're celebrating this year. And on September 24th, there will be a free event at the Simcoe County Museum. And it will talk about the 100 years of county forest. At AMO, I can tell you the Association of Municipalities of Ontario had their yearly conference this year for the first time since 2019 in person. It was very well attended with 2,300 participants, and Councillor Waters and myself, CFO Melanishin and CAO Oliver Gershow attended from the town. We had 3 delegations with different ministers, and I think they went really well. And on behalf of the county, there was another 9 delegations. So it was a very busy time, learning how to get from one room to the other instead of just clicking a button on a Zoom. So I'd forgotten we needed to get travel time in there. And also, I'm pleased to say that with council support, I was able to get reelected to the Small Urban Caucus of AMO, and then was elected by my peers on the Small Urban Caucus to act as their chair for the next couple of years. And then finally, in Police Services Board, Mr. Chair, I can tell you that we have accepted the retirement of our chief, Andrew Fletcher. Andrew has had a dignified career in policing since he started, and he's been 36 years in policing. He's done a great job here in the town of Innisfil and in the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury. He's quite often says he likes to leave a place better than he found it, and I do believe that's the case here, and I wish him a very healthy and happy retirement. And on behalf of the board, we have initiated the process for the competition to fill the chief's seat. That's all my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else with comments at this time? I don't see anyone else. Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to the consent list. We'll start with item A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, C1, that's being pulled, thank you. C2, C3, C4, sorry.
Dolan,
Which one, Mayor Dolan?
C3.
C3?
Actually, C2, I was late getting my camera on, Mr. Chair, and I just had a question. I didn't need to pull it.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So my question was in regards to the value of the land and when that value is calculated. Is it once it's been approved as a draft plan of subdivision, or is it prior to that?
I'm wondering who's going to answer that. Just give us a moment, we'll have a staff reply.
Mr. Chair, Paul Pentakainen is on, so we'll invite Paul to speak to this.
Thank you.
Yes, through you, to Mayor Dolan. Sorry, can you repeat the question? And
No issues, but it's about parkland dedication.
And it was the value of land and when it's calculated?
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up in the report, sorry. Yeah, Hampson is our consultant on this one, so they're more of the expert, fortunately.
No worries, Mr. Pentakainen. I apologize for catching you off guard. I should have called you earlier today and the day got away on me. I'll follow up with staff on that question. But I am otherwise in favor of these amendments, be it mostly housekeeping, to the Development Charge Parkland bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Next, that was C2 we're speaking of. Next, I think we had C4 pulled, is that correct? Thank you. C5. Now, staff reports for information, D1. Oops, sorry. Okay, C5, I need a mover and one moment.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Mayor Dolan wishes to speak.
I have to get used to look at this camera. Okay, Mayor Dolan, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No worries, Mr. Chair. I know it must be difficult. I just wondered, this draft approved plan of subdivision is the phase 2 of a phase 1 that has been fairly controversial. And I just wondered if anybody could address tonight that the construction of the phase 2 will use Robertson Court to enter and as a construction entrance and keep the disturbance level for the phase 1 on Sunnybray as little as possible?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. The only construction access through Sunnybray would be for the single Sunnybray lot. The balance of the subdivision would be, the construction access would be through the proposed Robertson Court Street.
Does that, I cannot see Mayor Dolan, but does that answer your question? Okay, she's happy. Okay, thank you. Next is staff reports for information, D1, D2, D3. Oh, sorry, Councillor Isis.
I'd like to refer D3 to committee, please.
Thank you. So the above staff reports, oh, here we are. So I need a mover and a seconder. No, pardon? Oh, it's still in the consent list, that's okay. Okay, so we have, we're ended at D3, we'll go to E1. Any, oh, no. F is correspondence for action, I don't see any. G1. G2, G3, G4. Okay. Now we'll move to the consent list. Consent list, we have items C1, C4, and D3. So that the consent list for September 14th, 2022, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as resolutions of council. We need a mover and a seconder. Bill and Ken. And now we'll resolve back to committee of the whole. All in favor? I only see Lynn on my screen. I don't see the other councillors. Yeah, there's Rob. Okay, thank you.
Alex says yes.
Okay, there we are. Okay. Now we'll move to committee of the whole. A mover and a seconder. Pulled items are C1. I'll have that moved by Carolyn and Kenneth. That's the rise recommendation, that the committee rise and return back to the formal council session to receive a report on the proceedings of the committee of the whole. All in favor? No.
Did we miss them?
Did we miss something? Oh, we have to go through each one, right? Committee of the whole. Okay. Okay, C1 is moved by, let me just see you guys. Need a mover and a seconder. Carolyn and Kenneth. Okay, does anyone like to speak on that one? Kenneth? Oh, and Alex, I see as well.
Thank you, Your Worship, or Mr. Deputy Mayor, Chair. I'm reading the report, and there's a few items that come to mind, and it's just I'm not comfortable with the recommendation currently. The idea of a car that can hold 3 people to do 2 runs, like you have 2 vehicles, that's not enough. You have a woman or a parent who has 3 children, all of a sudden, you know, they don't get accessibility. You have 2 people that go out, for example, on a double date, they don't have accessibility. This is very limited in its options. I did the research on the Tesla Model 3. I understand the reasoning behind it, but I mean, if we're doing something like 2 vehicles, why not have 4 to 6 minimum so that you can have more than a singular family, or for example, you know, larger families. This doesn't. I understand the process and what's being proposed, but I don't agree with the method. And the car sharing pilot, I don't understand anything about it at all. If there's an accident with the town, if it gets vandalized, who's taking over insurance, what's responsibility if there is an incident that someone rents the vehicle, is the town liable in any way? It's just too many questions. I think it has bones to be better. I just don't agree with what's being proposed at the moment.
Actually, I did see a Tesla recently down on where I live, and it was like a van, and it sat about 6 people, and it was quite interesting. I'd just not seen it before. It was the first time I'd seen it, so I was wondering if we could look at this from that perspective, and I don't know who would like to speak on that. Paul?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Very great point and great question. After this report was issued, after identifying the Model 3, some recent discussions with Steer had brought up that is there a larger vehicle that could potentially be made available, and the one that has a 3rd seat, so to have like 2 back seats, and it could fit up to 4 to 6 passengers. That's something that they said could potentially be made available for this pilot also at the same cost as well.
Thank you for that information. Councillor Fowler, is there anything you want to change in the recommendation, or?
If they,
I'll go to Alex.
if we can come back to this with a more detailed report on the car sharing project, I would be more interested to see the background study and the legal ramifications of such. And the bigger vehicle has more potential. I'd like to see what could be accomplished with that in the long run.
Can I have, if I could see him up on the screen? I think he had something to say. Go ahead, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I did have a couple of questions. One has to do with the fixed route, and it's only a 3-month pilot. So I have a concern that the pilot really isn't long enough, and whether or not the fall winter is the best time, whether or not that pilot might be enhanced to be 6 months. That would take in the fall, winter, and maybe the spring, get a better idea of how well it performs. And also in terms of marketing, how well you can market something to see really if it has any value in terms of whether or not the residents are going to pick up on it. So a 3-month pilot, and it's September now, and I'm not too sure how much marketing you'd be able to get people to know about the pilot. So I'm a bit concerned that it's going to fail, because it's too short, and there's not enough time to market it. So I wouldn't mind having asking a question in terms around the longevity and whether or not it's possible to extend the pilot of the fixed route part of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, did you want to answer some of those questions?
Yes, thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Waters. The duration is something that we had discussed. With Steer, it's I guess a concern around costing with regards to even 3 months. Steer is they'd be losing. I think they indicated it would be roughly 60,000 or so for them to operate per month. So it's $10,000 for the entire duration from the town. It's they're losing money essentially, but it's something that for the 3 months they're willing to help us with regards to data collection and to align with the transit master plan. And I agree on your point that it's 3 months isn't a full enough window to get a very true picture, but something that we can leverage through this partnership is having just the ability to have more targeted surveys to the users of the pilot to get them ask some more targeted questions. And this is through the partnership that we have with Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly Ryerson Lab, and they're helping us develop some very targeted survey questions. For example, the users of the pilot, asking them, well, how far are you willing to walk to a potential bus route? So it's kind of using and leveraging this, even though 3 months in duration is it's a short window and the time isn't ideal necessarily over the winter months, but it does give us, if it's we can start before the winter, before snow hits, we have some period of before snow's on the ground, some period when there's snow on the ground, and once you kind of combine all that together with the more targeted survey questions, it's a very helpful tool when it comes to data collection. And
Thank you.
A follow-up, Deputy Mayor?
Sure.
I assume that this will be operating simultaneously, that we have our Uber, which basically is going to take people to the same place. So if I have an option of somebody picking me up in my driveway and taking me to the Southbury GO station, and then or standing on Innisfil Beach Road waiting for a fixed route to pick me up, I know which one I'm going to choose. So I'm just a bit concerned. It might be just a waste of $10,000. I like the idea of doing the pilot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not too sure how much good data you're going to get from this because A, it's in competition, and B, the marketing and the longevity of the process. So there's just some comments that I'd like to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowlers.
Quick question. I'm going through the reports, and something just occurred to me. There's no mention who's going to be driving these vehicles. Is it going, and if it does, are we creating a position with the town which is not being reported, or is it covered by the company which is not being charged to the town? It's a bit of a spot I need an answer to.
Paul?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Fowler. It's the drivers will be at the vehicles, and the drivers will be operated exclusively through STEER. So STEER has a driver recruitment program that they currently have, very similar to the way Uber recruits drivers. So STEER would be staffing the vehicles, and they would be operating the vehicles exclusively.
Follow up?
Okay, thank you for that. We had a situation a little while back with Uber where there were concerns with drivers. Does STEER have a program in place to address such issues? Because if STEER comes in for a program, drives a bus, and there's an altercation or an interaction that is inappropriate, we have no power to say to STEER, take your ball and go home. What do we do in that scenario? Is there something in place that will reassure residents that the position that occurred with another company does not occur with this one?
Paul?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Fowler, that's something that our agreement that we're currently drafting and working on with STEER can address, just those the situations where there is an incident with the driver, and the certain actions that the town could take to address that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Dolan, and then Councillor Nicol, please.
Thank you very much. I think it's an excellent opportunity to have this pilot, especially at such a reduced rate, and to offer it both the e-car sharing and the fixed route e-shuttle service. The e-car sharing, I didn't see in the report the cost of renting that car.
I'm just looking to see Paul on my screen. There we are.
Yes, through Deputy Mayor to the Mayor. Yeah, great question. I'm just seeing if I could quickly skim through the proposal, if that's something that Steer has indicated. But it would be, yeah, usually they're fairly reasonable in terms of the hourly rate that's charged. Yeah, so that's another one I'll have to get back to you on.
That's fine, Mr. Pentacane. And again, I meant to make a call to you today. Mr. Chair, follow-up?
Yes, please.
So I also had a question about the route. Now, we've got all this data from Uber, and is that data somehow transferred into the route we chose? I guess my thinking was that we already have Go Transit service up and down Yonge Street, and I wondered if there's the opportunity to go counterclockwise and maybe go up the 25th and across the 10th instead of up Yonge Street, or if the route had already been determined based on data that we have from Uber.
Yes, through Deputy Mayor to Mayor Dolan. Yeah, the data that we have from our current partnership with Uber is, and it's always kind of been our current partnership with Uber. We're kind of testing against what was proposed in that feasibility study for transit in 2016, and the bus routes that were considered in that study, and then looking at the data through our current partnership with Uber, and how, for example, something that we often ask Uber, and we're able to look at our own data to look at is, well, how many trips are within a certain distance of that Barrie South Go to Elkona, Yonge Street to Innisfil Beach Road? And it's about a third or so of all trips are within about 400 meters of that distance. So this is a way that if there is a fixed route available along that, and how many of the current trips may transition to that route. So it's a bit of a real life experiment to assess the kind of ground truth of that data that we're seeing through our Uber partnership, that how many would transition to a potential fixed route along that network.
Thank you. And my final comment, if I could, Mr. Chair, we've gained a reputation for being innovative. So companies like this do reach out to us from time to time because they know that we are not afraid of doing a pilot. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, we move on to something else. If it fails, we fail fast and move on to something else. And we also have that great ability to maneuver and change the pilot as it goes along too. And I know the e-scooter one is coming back to us. I would request that we do reach out and get some lived experience from municipalities that have e-scooters. The only challenging comment I've heard from other municipalities with their e-scooter sharing is the fact that sometimes people leave them lying on the sidewalk and they become a trip and fall hazard. But really excited to see how this pilot works out for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have Councillor Nichols next, please, and then we'll move to Councillor Ices. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I think we're definitely not in a position where we are at a point to provide fixed route buses for Innisfil yet. Obviously, it's too much geographic area. I think this is a great pilot to gain some data for those numbers to try and begin to justify that, though. A 3-month pilot is a good start. Just like the last council, not this council, but the previous council had the insight actually from Paul Pentacane to start with Uber. I think that we have a great opportunity here to continue on, and I think it definitely will help provide some solutions. So a 3-month pilot is a great opportunity for us, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do like the concept of this pilot. I wonder if staff could walk me through how this would work, though. If I'm a resident that needs transit and I'm used to getting Uber, like, is there another app that I need on my phone? And then I'm also wondering why we started at the $3 per trip when I believe Uber is $4 to the certain stops, and just wondering about the competition between Uber and this, as Councillor Waters brought up. So walk me through how it would work for a resident wanting to use this service.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Ices. Yeah, so how it would work, so this is incorporated or like an added layer to our already existing transit partnerships. So someone that wants to book an Uber trip can still do so, and someone that needs a wheelchair accessible trip, they can contact Barrie Taxi or Driver's Seat as we currently have, or then someone that requires a call-in trip, they can do so through the partnership that we have with GoGo grandparent for that service. So this is just an added layer, and to specifically order a trip or to use the shuttle service that's being contemplated would be either through a steer app could be used, and that's where it would seen steer kind of work through some of the modeling that they've been working on with in terms of developing the app and customize it to how it would work for this pilot, is that someone could see where the shuttle vehicles are running along the route, how many minutes it would be to the route or to the stop that they're considering on getting a ride from, and as well as how many seats are left in that vehicle. So it's quite neat how the app's been structured in that way. So the rider can pay within the app, and then by having it app-based as well, the cash could also be accepted from the driver of the vehicle too. But then having it allows for the integration with the survey component through our transit master plan, as well as then linkages with the data collection that Ryderson's also helping us with too. So that's generally how it would work with payment through the app as well as cash.
Councillor Ices?
Yeah, so just to follow up, so I'm wondering, would this just be one Innisfil Transit app where you have the option to pick Uber or this micromobility option, or will residents have to have all different apps in their phone, and there's an added complexity there? Is it possible to make an Innisfil Transit app so you could get a good feel for what residents are looking for?
Paul, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, with the pilot and the way it's structured, it would be a separate app. Of course, there's always been that consideration that can we develop our own Innisfil Transit app at some point in the future? There'd be a lot of resources and complexities behind designing our own app. So it would be a separate app to use the shuttle service.
Okay, you're okay with that thing? And I think I have Councillor Van Berkel next. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I always think, that a pilot of something that'll help the town is a good thing, but I do have some problems with this. For instance, at times from 6 to 10 a.m. If somebody has an appointment at the Rizzardo Center and at 9:30 takes this and is finished at 10:30, they can't get back. You still have to use Uber. And it's the same in the afternoon. So to me, this is sort of a half measure. If this thing ran, 10 hours a day like a bus does or whatever, that's one thing. Even from 2 to 6, if there's some of the GO trains come in later than that at the Barrie station, those are some of my concerns. And also, Councillor Fowler's concerns, insurance, it's a big thing. Who's responsible? I don't think that question was answered.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel. So this recommendation that's before us, the staff report, are we, I think I need our CAO is going to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll ask the clerk's office to help spell out the details here, but council does have a few options in terms of what to do with this recommendation tonight. For example, referring it back to staff so that we can address the questions that have been raised tonight. Council's not compelled to, make a decision at this point. Based on what I'm hearing, we are hearing some substantive questions. So I would suggest a report back or a referral back to staff might be the most appropriate course, but if clerks would like to add, please, I'd ask for that.
Thank you. And through Deputy Mayor to Council, one of the options you could have is to receive this report and ask for staff to report back either to the new council or to the next meeting. Or you could just defer it. Actually, referring it back to staff is probably the best bet, but receiving the report in the first place, it puts it on record that you have received this report and the information, and then when staff reports back, it would be with new information.
Thank you. Is council comfortable with that? Mayor Dolan would like to speak.
Thank you. I'd like to ask through you to Mr. Pentikainen if we think we'd get, if we refer it back, I'm not sure we could get it back on the very next agenda because that agenda is due out so soon. And then that's the last real meaty meeting of this term of council. And my concern would be, would Steer go looking for another partner or would they allow us to do it, the pilot, say in the spring instead of in the fall at the same price? Just would like to hear from Mr. Pentikainen any challenges that referring it back might bring.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, through Deputy Mayor to Mayor Dolan. Yeah, great question, and that's something that have discussed with Steer in terms of if next spring is more likely, or is that achievable? I guess Steer's response has been that well, they're a private company. They've allocated a substantial amount of funds for this pilot, and it's not likely, or there's no guarantee that the funds that they've allocated in a reserve to help us with this pilot would be around for next spring, maybe later this year. The pilot, they could still reserve the funds for us, but next spring it's more unlikely.
Thank you. So I'm thinking we should defer this because he says there seems to be a time limit on this, a time period. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just checking, if I'm looking at this correctly, the budget we're talking about is $10,000 to do a 3-month study with a willing participant that will provide us lots of information. This likely wouldn't be available to us in the springtime. I'm not sure why council is backpedaling. Again, if we are an innovative community like we have been in the past, where we did things like Uber, where we did build Risardo Health and Wellness Center, we're talking about a very small budget to try and provide a different opportunity for mobility for our community. Our town is asking for different options. This is an opportunity. So I think referring this back to staff will lose this opportunity at this point. So I would encourage councillors to have a little bit of faith in our staff and to go forward with this project for the next 3 months. Thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
As much as I can appreciate Councillor Nichols' point, at this moment in time, to quote Councillor Van Berkel, half measures are something that we would have to spend twice as much after the fact to rectify. I don't agree with that. I think if we're going to do something, we do it right off the get-go. We have all the answers in place, so there's pure transparency and everyone understands what they're getting themselves involved in, whether it's $10 or $10,000. The residents deserve that much. So I'm sorry, I can't back moving forward. I'd like to defer it back to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I have Councillor Waters on my screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I kind of agree with Councillor Nicol on this one here. Is it that if we defer it, there's no chance at happening. At least give council an opportunity to vote on it. We can turn it down if we wish, or we can allow it to go ahead. So I don't think we're going to see it. If we defer it, we're not going to see it in this council anyways. and we may not see it at all because the money may not be available next term. So I would suggest allow council to vote on it. And if it dies on the floor, it dies on the floor. It'd be no different if we deferred it. So I agree with Councillor Nicol on this one, that we should just vote on it and see where the cards lie. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ices, please.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, I'm wondering about the motion that's on the table. We haven't talked much about the e-scooter pilot, and I wouldn't want that to get caught in the motion that we go through. Is it possible to split up the motion to vote on that independently?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer that question, Councillor Ices. It is possible to break the motion up into and to vote on each clause. So if you make that request and there's no objection from council, then you can proceed that way.
Sorry, I apologize. I was speaking with our clerk. Can you repeat that for me, please? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. We had a question about whether we could break the motion and vote on individual clauses, and you can. So if council wanted to break each of the pieces of the pilot and vote on each one individually, you can do that.
Thank you. I will ask the mover.
I will make that motion.
Okay, okay, the motion's been moved forward that we divide it up. It was moved by Councillor Ison, second by Councillor Fowler. And as it states, a staff report DSR 139-22 regarding Innisfil Transit Shuttle Pilot, an update dated September 14, 2022 be received. And that it keeps moving. That staff be granted delegated authority to enter an agreement with Steer to operate a fixed route e-shuttle pilot for 3 months beginning in fall 2022 as outlined in this report, and operate an e-car sharing pilot for 12 months beginning fall 2022 as outlined in this report. Okay, I thought we're separating the scooter out of this. We'll vote on each one separately?
Yeah, so I would suggest you vote on clause 1, and then you can vote on 2A, 2B, and 2C individually.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask council to vote on 2A, and if I could see the screen with all of them, that'd be great. Okay, vote on 2A. Oh, sorry, one more.
I would suggest voting on clause 1 first to receive the report, and then proceed to clause 2A.
Okay, so we're voting to receive the report. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we're moving on to 2A to vote on it. And that is operate a fixed route e-shuttle pilot for 3 months beginning in fall 2022 as outlined in this report. All in favor? That's carried. Sorry. Can I have a revote on it so I can just see everybody, please? Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's carried. On 2B, operate an e-car sharing pilot for 12 months beginning in fall 2022 as outlined in this report. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, that's carried. C, operate an e-scooter pilot during the summer of 2023, prior to which staff will report back to council with a bylaw specifying the perimeters under which the e-scooters will be operated during the pilot program. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Mayor Dolan would like to speak. Your sign is blurred. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. It's blurred so it hides in a messy office. I just want to ask Mr. Pentikainen on this one, since it's not till the summer of 2023. Could this one be referred? Because there has been some issues with e-scooters in some more larger urban municipalities, and because you have to come back with another report anyway.
So we're asking for items 2C to be deferred. I'm going to ask for the vote on that.
Could I ask for an answer from Mr. Pentikainen?
Okay, sure. Okay, I see him.
Yes, yeah, that could be referred because there is a report back that's required. Yeah, if there's some direction from council that there's just interest in coming back with that report, then maybe that could be helpful.
Thank you, appreciate that. So I'm going to ask that that be deferred. Item two, CAO, Oliver.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to ask the clerk's office to clarify, because we've split the original motion and now we're amending the motion also. So procedurally, what is the correct way to address Mayor Dolan's comment?
Through the chair to the CAO and council, if Mayor Dolan, it's fine, we've voted on 3 parts of a 4-part motion, that if Mayor Dolan wishes to amend the last one or have the motion changed, we would have to have an amendment put forward and council would vote. Actually, we've split all the motions and voted on them independently, so if we want to amend them, there's no reason that we cannot just amend that last item, but that would require a mover and a seconder because it is an amendment to what is on the floor initially.
So I'm asking for a mover and a seconder for 2C. Mayor Dolan?
Could I provide a friendly amendment that while council is interested in the e-scooter pilot project, we'd like staff to bring back more information?
Clerk's office is saying yes there. I'm just waiting for direction.
If I could, Deputy Mayor, I think we just need to ensure we correctly capture Mayor Dolan's comments so that it can be shown on the screen and everybody's clear what we're voting on.
Correct, thank you. We're still doing this hybrid thing, so it's...
And I would move that, Mr. Chair, if item C.
So we need a seconder. We've got Councillor Nichols, a seconder. Yes?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The mayor had asked that that be a friendly amendment, and if council is fine with that, that we would just work with that as is.
So we're not going to vote on it. We'll just have the amendment as it reads.
Correct.
That's right. So we can move forward on that then. Councillor, comfortable with that? Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex, I want to get one person there. Okay, we'll move forward on that. So at this point, I ask all in favor. That's carried. Carried. Thank you. Our next item that was pulled was C4, and that was by Kenneth Fowler. Yes, I will speak on some of this as well. We heard the gentleman this evening speaking to us about his concerns. I'm going to I have concerns what I saw the drawings, as I think I spoke to Mr. Montgomery earlier today, having fencing behind everyone's house fairly done, equally done across the board, the rear fencing. And where the pond is, that fencing be done along the pond side so he doesn't look at a swamp or a mosquito-infested piece of water. What about the retaining wall? I think we need to answer that question. And when you're talking with the developer about, I know it's 9 meters, that for Innisfil, that's our standard, I understand, for building houses. Can you explain, maybe you can work with the developer on the fence, the height, maybe push bungalows in that area, and that the park be located more to the east instead of to the west? Thank you.
To you, Mr. Chair, certainly, we can put privacy fencing along the east and south sides of 897 Lockhart. We can put that right into the conditions instead of chain link. Normally, we put chain link adjacent to parks, but certainly we can change that to privacy fencing. It's not an issue. That's just a simple change in the conditions. And the retaining wall, we'll make a note of that for the engineering detailed design. As with respect to parkland, Meredith Goodwin in our Parks Department would be the person to speak to. I can provide her contact information. But she's plans facilities for the park, so any concerns about placement of facilities would go through her. There's nothing in the draft plan conditions that specifically speaks to that. It just says that the park block 25 will be graded, seeded, and maintained to the satisfaction of the town. So the facilities would happen later, but that would be through Meredith. And as mentioned in the report, 9 meters is the standard throughout the town. The property is currently zoned for 9 meters height. It's been that way since 1999. The properties around the subdivision also have 9-meter height, so if somebody wanted to, they could redevelop the properties around the subdivision for a 2-story house. But we can certainly work with the developer to see what they can do in terms of the architectural control component to make the houses compatible. So.
Yeah, and I think what caught my attention was on page 13, where there's a comment in there that when we're building a new subdivision next to an old subdivision, there has to be sort of some blending in there that they kind of doesn't stand out so much. And I think we've seen an example up in Ward 6 where this new building was built that looks like it's out of downtown Toronto. So I just question that section of the building code or whatever we were looking at page 13. So just make sure we'll contact the people concerned. We'll leave it at that. So at this time, I've got a Councillor Fowler, second by, Rob Nicol, like to speak. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, just procedurally, just check to see if there was a seconder to get this matter on the floor. So
I'm the seconder on that one.
thank you.
Okay.
It would be better if we could have a different seconder as you're the chair.
Councillor Payne. I understand these concerns have been taken forward, so I'm going to ask for a vote on this recommendation before us at this time. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item D3, I think, is the next one we have up. And who pulled that one? D3. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Could I have someone second it for me so I get on the floor? Councillor Van Berkel, thank you. So I have a few questions. I understand that there's much needed road work that needs to be done in the town. But I'm also very cognizant of the calendar. We're in September now, and I'm wondering if there's going to be access to agricultural lands through these projects. Yeah, that's my main question on this one. And not just a car.
Okay. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Ices.
Yes, we have planned for the roads for this year, 9th line and 10th line. So there will always be one lane of traffic open to vehicles, including farm equipment. The only time there would not be would be if an entrance culvert is being replaced. In that case, we can work with the farmers, and also they're very short duration culverts for entrance culverts, so it doesn't take very long to do. And also, when the structures would be replaced, there would be detours in place. So there is the culvert, the Lovers Creek structures on 9th line and 10th line there's work being done on those. So there would be detours in place. So farm equipment would have to unfortunately go around in those instances. Otherwise, yes, during the road construction, one lane of traffic would always be open.
Councillor.
Yeah, just so I do appreciate that answer. I do encourage lots of communication as we get into harvest time. And we're dealing with weather, and so there is some timeliness that has to be taken into account when accessing these lands. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions at this time. Okay, we'll do a rise recommendation. Nope. So I'm going to go here. Okay, so I'm going to ask for, all in favor of item D3? That's carried. Thank you. And the rise recommendation, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Kenneth and Bill Fowler. Kenneth, Bill Van Berkel. That committee rise return back into formal council session to receive a report on the proceedings of the committee of the whole. All in favor? That's carried. Next, consideration to adopt the recommendations from committee of the whole. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Payne, Councillor Ices. Unfortunately, I don't see the other councillors at this moment. And all in favor? That's carried. Okay. And motion for which notice has been given and none received today, so we'll move forward. Any announcements by council? Councillor Fowler, please.
I've had a very busy summer, and I want to thank everybody who's put so many events together over the past number of months. Starting with the library board, we had our Fresh Air Flicks, our final one for the season a little while back. It was incredible getting out, people actually sitting in fresh air under the stars, watching movies, having kids interact and hear the laughter was really cool. We opened the Troy Scott Community Fridge. It's now been moved outside of the Cookstown Library, which I think is incredible. Instead of working under the hours of the library now, it's 24/7. I've recently stocked some myself. We have more businesses opening up. We have the Water Depot grand opening that occurred late August. It's good for those that are on well water and all the safety measures that can be put in place. I took pride in being part of the Every Child Matters flag raising at Town Hall on September 1st. I think that was incredible. I think it's the right move forward, and the acknowledgement is a good start. I had the pleasure this past week of going to the Mosaic Nights and South Asian Film Festival at Friday Harbor. There was lots of dancing, food, and a movie, which I had to read the subtitles because obviously I don't speak the language. And lastly, most importantly, we said thank you to Pastor Courtney after 43 years of devoted service to the town. He will be missed, and I took part in it, and it's incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council? I don't see any on this screen. I myself was able to attend, which actually was amazing, was the fashion show at Friday Harbor a few weeks ago. And sitting there just as, I see Councillor Waters there, as a member of council, how this fashion show was so professionally done. And it was basically showing the talent in Canada of our couture designing that goes on in this country. There are many cities in Ontario that would have loved to have a fashion show that was done at Friday Harbor. And there was a lady that kept getting my attention. And she was an elderly lady or an older lady, I'm not sure of the correct one. Anyhow, she kept smiling at me, and I thought, who is this person? Later, after the fact, I found out it was Elon Musk's mother that was actually here in the town of Innisfil putting on a fashion show in her early 70s. So to have that kind of display, I actually got in contact with an engineer who works for Elon Musk in California and said, bring a factory to Innisfil. So I was still trying to sell the town of Innisfil that day. So I think we should be proud of some of the people that were in this fine town of ours to see what we can showcase. So that was very exciting for me. And Alex, I think, had a comment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to mention I went to the music night last night, and what a wonderful singer and talent that we had there last night. I just want to mention how I thoroughly enjoyed myself. But I did talk to a couple other residents who were there who had been to almost all of the music nights, and they said they thoroughly enjoyed all of them. They said they had as many as 80 people at some of the evenings, and so I think the music nights were well received by residents. And I know I enjoyed it. I was only planning on staying for maybe 2/3 of the concert last night, but ended up staying for the whole thing. So it was really an excellent singer from Midhurst. And so I really appreciate it. And I know the residents have as well. So congratulate staff on putting that together. I think it was a successful venture, and I look forward to more of those in the years coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Dolan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I won't repeat all of the events that have already been talked about, but yes, it's been a wonderful, wonderful summer. I'll just mention the ones that weren't mentioned already. One would be the Wilson Street Kid Race. This is in Councillor Arsadi's ward, and she asked if I would attend on her behalf, and it was amazing. It's the 11th year that Nancy Moses has put this on, and it's a 1K race for kids of all ages, and there was some very, very young ones there, and they all got a medal, and everybody won, and there was a bit of a warm-up beforehand and a barbecue afterwards, and I hope that she'll put it on again. And putting on something like that where the street has to be closed is a little bit of work for the town as well. So I really appreciate town staff taking the time to allow these small neighborhood traditions to continue as the town grows. I also wanted to talk about the Sandy Cove Pharmacy. Councillor Payne and I were at the first year celebration, and we were both at the 5th year celebration this year, and they've done a wonderful job in that pharmacy. They've automated. Apparently only 2% of all community pharmacies have the technology in them that this pharmacy has, that allows a double redundancy and double checking that the medications that are given out are correct, and they're all blister packed, and it also allows the pharmacist to spend more time with the public as opposed to counting the medication. So that was also a really interesting and learning experience. And then also the retirement of Reverend Courtney. I'm sorry, I know someone's already mentioned that, but I can't let that go. It was so wonderful to be there to wish him in person, him and Beulah both, a happy retirement, and also to welcome Steve Bradley, the new lead pastor at the church. And I found out talking to Pastor Bradley that he is a former Innisfil town employee. He was, when he was finishing high school, he was a rink rat and worked in our Parks and Recreation department. And he's grown up here, so he knows the town well. And I feel very comfortable that all of the wonderful things that Pastor Courtney and Beulah have done, that he and his wife Jenny will continue. So it was a wonderful passing of the baton. And I think that was it. I just wanted to congratulate Clerk Toma on her first meeting as Clerk Toma instead of Deputy Clerk Toma. And I think she did a pretty amazing job. Congratulations.
She had to put up with me. Thank you. You had to put up with me tonight, didn't you? Okay. We've done announcements, so we're confirming bylaw moved by Councillor Bill and Councillor Payne, please. All in favor? I've got it now. Adjournment is at 8:10. Oh, there's Rob. I got Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Payne there, and all in favor. Okay, okay. Oh,
No, you guys are saying yes to it, they're done.
all in. Okay, so the confirming bylaw, all in favor? That's carried. And now we'll do adjournment, moved by Councillor Nickel, Councillor Van Berkel at 8:10. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And I hope Mayor Dolan is feeling better soon. Thank you. All in favor? Okay.